Wonderhussy here, hanging out in the desert outside Bakersfield, aka California's oil country. That's right, a lot of folks don't realize that California has a lot of oil, and it has historically. In fact, there's a bunch of this really old-timey, I guess, oil industry artifacts, you might call them, just sitting out here in the desert, blazing away in the sun, like this ginormous old spindle, or whatever you want to call it, that had this huge steel cable on it, probably for plunging the depths of the earth to extract every last delicious morsel of oil. Or this thing right here, which I'm not in the oil business, but I have a good friend who was, and so he could probably tell all of us what this thing would have been used for historically. I mean, again, it just looks real steampunk and old-timey. All these belts and pulleys and gears and wheels, and all made out of wood. Isn't that amazing? Anyway, I just think it's really cool that there's all these crazy old artifacts just laying out in the desert outside Bakersfield for anyone who's interested to come take a look at. Now, I just came from making a video at the Lakeview Gusher, which is just right down the road there, and it was the site of the biggest uncontrolled accidental oil spill in history, which, if you watched that video, you know was a pretty big deal. But now I'm headed to check out another attraction in this bizarrely fascinating no man's land between Bakersfield and the coast that also has to do with oil, but is a little bit different. Okay, you've probably heard of the famous La Brea Tarpits down in Los Angeles, but have you ever heard of the McKittrick Tarpits? Well, neither had I until I was poking around Google Maps one day, and I knew I had to come out here. I've never been to the La Brea Tarpits, and I'm sure they're awesome, but to see them, you have to pay, and you probably have to stay on a path and obey a bunch of rules and regulations. Well, these McKittrick Tarpits are way out in the middle of nowhere with no official interpretive infrastructure, which is way more up my alley. According to the sign, the McKittrick Tarpit, or Brea Pit, I guess come to find out Brea is just another word for tar, is an ancient asphaltum seepage in which hundreds of Pleistocene-age animals were trapped. Creatures like giant condors, giant longhorned bison, ground sloths, camels, direwolves, and saber-toothed cats. Now, I guess if you visit the La Brea Tarpits, you can check out the actual skeletons of all these animals, but again, then you have to pay and suffer the headache of driving into Los Angeles. Out here in the middle of nowhere, you don't have to worry about traffic, carjacking, or your catalytic converter being stolen. You just have to use your imagination. I'm guessing this must be it because look, there's like this ooey gooey, sticky black stuff seeping through the crust of the earth. And I don't know much about Brea, or I didn't until I started researching this video, but I mean, that looks like tar. And if they call the La Brea Tarpits tar pits, well, I guess Brea is tar. Actually, according to my research, my understanding is Brea is like the Spanish word for tar or pitch. And correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. Doesn't that look like tar? Look at it. It's super glossy and black and very sticky. Oh God, my hands are gonna get so unspeakably filthy making this video because I'm a very tactile person and I'm gonna wanna poke everything, including these poor bugs. Look at that, this bug flew into it and got trapped in the tar. Basically like all those dire wolves and saber-toothed tigers we were talking about on that sign. I guess that's how all these ancient fossils wind up in these Brea pits or tar pits. They get stuck, you know, like in the Pleistocene era, you know, 20, 30,000 years ago, some dire wolf is loping along merrily through the high desert outside, well, what would one day become known as Bakersfield, and then he steps into a big ooey gooey puddle of Brea, gets stuck, And that's pretty much it. Golly, look at this stuff. It's fascinating. It's just oozing to the top of the surface of the ground. And in fact, my shoes, my feet are kind of sinking into the ground. I have to be careful. I don't want to step in any tar because that would really mess up the soles of my flip-flops. But wow, look at the ground. It's so interesting. It's like, I guess it's tar. Like you can see my fingerprints. It's tar or asphalt mixed with dirt, clay, water. Okay, my layperson's understanding, after all the research I did for this video, is that what we call asphalt is actually a naturally occurring substance called asphaltum, which is then mixed with gravel to create blacktop for paving roads. Here in the US, we call the whole mixture asphalt, but technically asphalt or asphaltum is the naturally occurring stuff seeping out of the ground, which I was really surprised to learn because I always assumed something so stinky, sticky, black and nasty must surely be some chemical cooked up by man in his infinite wisdom in some diabolical lab somewhere. But no, come to find out, it's just naturally occurring oil that seeps up out of the ground along earthquake fault lines, like the San Andreas Fault here outside Bakersfield. As the oil seeps to the surface, it mixes with clay and water, and when it gets to the surface, the lighter compounds evaporate, leaving behind this thick, ooey gooey black gunk that's basically the consistency of molasses in January. Look at this. It's like a moth or something that got trapped in it. Golly, this stuff is deadly. I'm gonna have to be very mindful of where I step. But I do want to kind of hike around a bit because according to the review of this place on Google Maps, there was a guy who came out here and he said there's like a tar waterfall. A tar waterfall. What in tarnation, huh? This I gotta see. Look, I think I found the tar waterfall. How about that? I mean, it's not exactly a gusher, no pun intended. That is to say, it's not flowing anymore, but you can see where this definitely was a waterfall, presumably made of tar. I mean, how about that? You can see all the different layers where the tar is sort of dribbling and drabbling down into the bottom there where, golly, it's actually kind of thick and it looks like there's some sticks down there people put so you can stir it around. Oh, in fact, there's a puddle of it there that's even kind of moving. That looks a bit more viscous than molasses in January. That looks more like molasses in June in Bakersfield. Let's go down and take a look. Okay, I gotta be real careful because, well, like I said, I'm wearing my flip-flops and I don't want to step in any tar patches, nor do I want to get bitten by a rattlesnake. I'm sure there's all kind of rattlesnakes around here. I don't know, it's hard to imagine any wildlife existing in this. I mean, I hate to say that any landscape is blighted, but if there was ever a landscape that was blighted, this is kind of it. You know, this looks like how I would imagine the world looking after the apocalypse. You know, after man in his infinite wisdom destroyed the entire earth, and, you know, this might have been the once mighty Colorado River or something, and now it's just reduced to this ooey gooey black industrial sludge. Speaking of which, let's give it a stir. Let's see how thick and gooey this stuff is. Oh, well, it's actually very watery here. I mean, it's a dark colored water. I don't know if you can see that. So there's obviously a lot of oil in it, but these thick clumps and globs. Oh my God, look at that. It's like the skin on top of it. Ugh, gross. I mean, I don't know why I'm saying gross. It's a naturally occurring phenomenon. There's nothing grosser about this than there is about a beautiful field full of wildflowers, right? Ooh, it smells exactly like when they're asphalting a road, and I never really thought about this before, but this is how they make the asphalt when they repave a road. They come out to places like this, I guess, and they gouge out or somehow harvest all this asphaltum, and then they mix it with some kind of aggregate like gravel or road base or something like that, and that's what they use to slather all over the road. And that's why when you're driving past a road crew Ooh-wee, it smells so stinky. It smells exactly like this. Oh gosh, and I don't know if you can see that, but after I stirred this puddle, look at the beautiful psychedelic colors that emerged. You know, just from stirring the water, now it looks like a lava lamp or something. Oh my God, it's amazing. Boy, if I had some mushrooms, I could sit here for hours watching this. Wow, I know I say this a lot, but that is really far out. You know what I mean? If that's not the definition of far out, I don't know what is. Wow, this is just so fascinating. This, oh my God, look at the skin. And then like it kind of like crumples up when you move it. It's like the skin on a cup of hot cocoa, but it's made out of tar. Oh my God. This is like, oh man, I guess it's kind of like making mud pies when you're a kid, only like 1,000 times better. I mean, I told you I'm a very tactile or sensual person in the sense that I enjoy using all my senses. And this place really is a feast for the senses. I mean, not only does it look amazing, it smells, well, I won't say it smells amazing, but it smells very powerful, and I'm sure it feels amazing. I mean, if I didn't have to worry about cleaning it off, I'd actually love to just wallow around in this and smear it all over my body. I'm not sure what kind of negative or positive health benefits that might have. I mean, I know from reading, the Native Americans in this area supposedly used to come here and they would use this tar for, I think if you had a wound, they would dress a wound with it. And they also used it for an adhesive to stick stuff together and for waterproofing their canoes and whatever all else, like their wickiups or wigwams or whatever, to keep the rain from getting in. This asphaltum was known to the natives as being very useful. I should note I'm using the term asphalt or asphaltum, but I think most of the rest of the world calls it bitumen. B-I-T-U-M-E-N. Bitumen, I think is what it's called in the rest of the world. But here in the U.S., we call it asphalt, which is confusing because asphalt is also what we call this mixed with gravel. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to keep calling this asphaltum because I like that word. I guess that's like the ancient Latin way of saying it. Okay, I'm going to try to step on this little island here, probably to my detriment. Let's see if it'll hold my weight. Ugh. Yeah, it does, but oh my God, look. It's cracking under my feet. They are kind of sinking in. Oh no. What if I get stuck here like one of those dire wolves or saber-toothed tigers, and oh my God, who will ever come along this lonely road to save me? Oh, well, I do have cell signal here, so I suppose I could call AAA. I'm not sure they would pull a human out of a bitumen pit. God, speaking of that, imagine getting your car stuck in this. I don't think there's any winch on this planet that could pull you out of this stuff. Let's see how this pond is. Oh, this is a much deeper pond. But yeah, same thing. It's just kind of watery on top, and when I stir it, it starts to make those cool psychedelic patterns. I mean, I do want to hike farther up this waterfall, but I mean, it looks like the only way to get up there is to use this little rock here in the middle of this bitumen pond. I know I just said I was going to call it asphaltum, but bitumen is pretty much as fun to say as asphaltum. You know, it kind of reminds me of Bitcoin, only stinkier and more fun to play with. Anyway, the only way for me to get up this waterfall is if I step on this rock, and oh my gosh, I'm so afraid. What if I misjudge or miscalculate? Yikes! Oh my God, I would sure hate to fall into this tar pit. Oh man, now I sound like Brer Rabbit and the Tar Baby. Wasn't that one of the Uncle Remus stories? Like, they threw him into they made a tar baby? Well, he didn't want to get thrown into the briar patch, but there was something to do with a tar baby. So I guess there must be some kind of asphaltum pits down south too for them to have made that tar. I don't know how that works. I mean, I guess it's found in parts of the country where there's a lot of petroleum, oil underground, which, as I said at the beginning of this video, we are in oil country here. So golly, I wonder if there's any pits like this out in Texas. Anyone watching live in Midland, Odessa that can confirm or deny the fact that y'all have these kinds of bitumen pits out where you live? Or is this another one of those classic loony California things? Golly, look at this. I'm climbing up this waterfall and it's absolutely fascinating. So I'm able to walk by just staying to the dry patches, but there's like all these super gross, and again, I don't know why I think it's gross, but glossy black puddles and pools, and it is very slowly running down the face of this, well, I was going to say rock, but I think all of this is just solidified asphaltum. You know, just layers and layers and layers that have built up over the years, decades, centuries, millennia. Anyway, this is very interesting to me because you can actually see little droplets of some kind of moisture moving down the face of this. And oh my God, I'm really curious to touch it. Oh gosh, I can't help myself. Oh yeah, look at that. It's a tar seep, a tiny little tar waterfall. How about that? Ugh, I did have the foresight to bring a baby wipe with me. Man, this stuff is nasty. Wow. Okay, I guess the thing to do would be hike up to the next level of this waterfall, but oh, I don't want to put my feet in that. Let's see if I can hike up this way. Just take the side route here on this dry stuff. Fascinating though. Look how lumpy and just weird. I mean, look at that. That does look like asphalt. What do they call that kind of asphalt with the really big chunks of gravel in it? I mean, I don't know. Really interesting. Like a lunar or like another planet kind of a landscape. And oh my gosh, I just stepped in a real sticky patch and almost lost my flip-flop. Yikes. See, I got a little bit of tar on the front. I gotta be real careful because these are brand new flip-flops. I put these on to wear all summer. I just left home yesterday to begin my summer travels, and so I brought a brand new pair of flip-flops that are supposed to last me until I get back from my travels. Okay, anyway, I climbed up to the top level of this waterfall, and there's a real nice glossy black puddle of goo up here, and another one over here. Man, this is so interesting. I want to hike all the way to the source of this waterfall and see where it's coming from. Wow, look at this though. It's just slopping down this wall, and you can see where it's even kind of like hanging in tar icicles. Look at that. Just very, very slowly dripping over the years to form, well, this whole ungodly mess. Let's keep going. Oh man, look, here we can see one of these little globs up close and personal. Oh, it's kind of firm. It is. It's the consistency of like when you boil sugar to make candy, like taffy. It's the consistency of taffy. But this ain't no Laffy Taffy. No, sir. This is bitumen taffy. Look at that. It just pulls right apart, but it's pretty dang thick. So cool. Okay, I'm going to try to go up one more level without stepping in any super gooey patches. Ugh. I'm just curious to see where this waterfall comes out of the ground. It's interesting too. You probably can't see, but there's like spider webs strung all across this dry waterfall. Well, I suppose I shouldn't call it a dry waterfall because it's technically at least tacky. But I wonder if that's because the spiders just sit and wait for bugs to get stuck in the tar and then they eat them. Wow, look, here's like a chunk of moss. I can't imagine that moss could grow in a tar pit, but that's what that is. I wonder how this stuff is. Oh, this is, oh my God, the skin on this one is so thick. Look at that. Oh man, it's amazing. It feels like, I mean, taffy is the best analogy. If this was touch-a-vision, you guys could feel what I'm talking about. And you know, to be honest, I feel like it would be a lot of fun to put my bare foot in there and just squeeze the asphaltum between my toes. It'd be an awesome foot fetish video. Should I do it? Should I just squeeze my foot right in there and watch all that black goo come up between them? I don't want to be washing my feet for the next 50 years. I'm not going to do that now. Sorry to you foot fetishists watching. Besides, there's so much more interesting stuff to look at. Like, oh my God, look at that. It's just running down this waterfall. It's so shiny and bloopy. I mean, I don't know if that's really a word, but it's just like blurp, bloop, 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 bloop. It's kind of making me want pancakes, you know, like a big stack of pancakes with maple syrup running down the sides. Must be getting towards dinner time. I'm getting hungry. Okay, let's try to make our way up this next level. Don't get stuck. Don't step in the soft patches. Don't do what the dire wolves did. Okay, this is the top of the waterfall, so this must be the source of where the tar is coming from, but oh, somebody left a board here. What is that, like covering the source? Oh, it's like tarred in place. I can't even lift it. Oh my god, this is so gross and gooey. Come on. Very satisfying. Now let's look at the underside. Oh my god, look at that. It is. It's like pulling taffy. So thick. Wow, so I don't know. It looks like it's actually coming out from even farther up, but there's a real nice gooey mess of a puddle here. I'll just go ahead and leave that for the next person. I'll let them have as much fun as I did. Assuming anyone else actually ever bothers to come out here. I mean, the only reason most people are traveling out this way is they either work in the oil fields. I guess you could get to the coast this way. It's just a very roundabout way. Or maybe you're going to check out the place where James Dean died. That's kind of around here and it's kind of a tourist attraction. But honestly, there's really not much reason for most people to come out here. Wow, look at this. This looks like what I would call asphalt, like on a road. It's not super sticky. I guess I can walk on it carefully. Wow, interesting. And it's like a river. It goes on. So I guess the source is actually way up there. Oh my goodness. Look at this rusty colored puddle. All these colors and textures are just super duper fascinating to me. I mean, I guess everyone's different, but this color palette, you know, gray and black and brown and some kind of like olive drab plants is kind of interesting to me. And then somebody left a tire here. I mean, I guess if you can't throw an old tire in a tar pit, where can you throw an old tire? But I don't know. It just seems kind of gross, but then again, this whole place seems kind of gross. Okay, now this looks like the real top of the waterfall, but I don't know. Again, there's still more of this weird, I thought it was like asphalt, but it's bubbles. Oh my god, look at that. I just said it just popped. They're not rocks, they're bubbles. Oh my god, my hand is getting so dirty, but gosh, I don't know if you can hear this. For my ASMR fans, I'm gonna flip my microphone around and do a close-up popping of some of these tar bubbles. Get ready. Okay, I don't know, maybe you can't hear it, but golly, it feels really funky and fun. Oh, I told you I'm a tactile person, and this is a tactile person's paradise. You know what this kind of reminds me of? Kind of reminds me of that movie, The Never-Ending Story. If you ever saw that movie, The Never-Ending Story, it was a kid's movie from the 80s about this. Well, it's a long story, but basically there was this one scene where the hero, this kid Atreyu, is walking through the swamps of sadness or the swamps of despair or something like that. And the key with that is you can't let the sadness take you down. And so he has this beautiful white horse that he rides named Artax, but he can't ride Artax through the swamp because it's too swampy. So he's leading Artax on a rope, and they're going through the swamp of despair, and it's hard going. They're slogging along, and they don't think they're ever going to get to the other side. And wouldn't you know it, Artax the horse apparently just gives up, loses faith, and starts sinking into the muck. And it's a very dramatic scene in the movie, if you've ever seen that movie. The kid who plays the hero is this adorable little 12-year-old. His character's name is Atreyu, and he's yelling, "Artax, no, don't give up!" And he's trying to pull the horse out, but the horse is just sinking into this black pit of despair. And you know, it's probably some kind of metaphor for something, but the horse ends up sinking, and it's super traumatic for a kid's movie. Anyway, that's what this asphalt lake or tar pit kind of reminds me of. The swamp of sadness. And in that respect, I guess it's kind of like a metaphor for my own life. You know, I'm very open about my struggles with depression. You know, I usually say that I have a black dog following me around. Well, I could just be walking through the tar pits of life, and it's a constant battle to not let the tar pits suck me down. You know what I mean? I think that's a metaphor many of us can probably agree with. Okay, well, look at this. The tar river, or whatever you want to call it, the tar seep, goes right back up here to the highway. Golly, I didn't have to drive down that bumpy dirt road. I could have just come here. For future reference, if you do come to check out this tar pit. The little monument is right at the corner of 33 and 58, and it says go 1/8 mile west. Well, just keep driving until you see this there's a big gravel pullout, and it leads right to the top of that tar seep. So you don't have to do what I did. Drive all down this bumpy road and then hike up a ooey gooey waterfall and stick your finger in every crevice. Although you certainly can do that if you're so inclined, and I actually do recommend it. Although technically I guess there are some dangers associated with tar pits. In fact, there was a terrible disaster related to the La Brea tar pits, which I didn't know anything about until I was researching this video. Apparently there was a Ross Dress for Less in LA about a mile north of the La Brea tar pits, and back in 1985, I guess methane gases seep up with the asphaltum, and somehow the methane collected in the space between the foundation of this Ross Dress for Less and the walls, and there was an explosion, and 21 people were seriously injured. I don't think there were any fatalities, but it was still a pretty serious disaster. You know, bitumen ain't nothing to mess with. You got to be careful around these tar pits. So, you know, if you do come out here, just, I guess, go easy on the huffing of the methane. Okay, golly, this thing just parallels the highway, and I don't know how far it goes. I just know that I don't have an infinite amount of daylight left. And believe it or not, there's another video I want to shoot in this area. Actually, there's a bunch of videos I'd like to shoot in this area. So I'm definitely gonna have to come back here one of these days, but for now, oh dear, I was just gonna say for now, I'm gonna get back in my car and head on to my next place, but I lost my car key. I'm not kidding you guys. I had it in my back pocket of my shorts here, and it's not there anymore. So, oh my God, I'm just gonna retrace my footsteps all the way back down this tar waterfall and pray that I find it. Oh my God, I hope I didn't drop my key into the McKittrick tar pits so that it's lost forever. There it is! Ah! Oh my God, you guys, I thought this was gonna be like, God, I made a video years ago where I lost my other car key. My car came with two of the electric keys, electronic ones, and I lost one of them back in 2018 on the edge of Death Valley, and I actually went back trying to find it and never did. I gotta stop keeping my key in my bra. That's what happened the first time. It fell out of my bra, and Lord knows there's plenty of room in my bra. This time I don't think I had it in my bra, though. I thought I had it in my back pocket. Maybe I'm wrong and I did have it in my bra, and when I took this baby wipe out to clean the tar off my finger, I somehow dislodged it. Anyway, here's one last glimpse of the Asphalt lake for you. There's this culvert running underneath it. And look at that, it's just like the bottom of it is covered in sticky, ooey gooey asphaltum. Bitumen. Whoa! Boy, how'd you like to have to crawl through that? Oh my God, what if it was World War II and you were escaping from the Nazis and the only choice you had was to crawl through this culvert filled with bitumen? Well, you would do it if you had no choice. But, lucky for me, I do have a choice. Now that I found my key, I can get back in my car and keep on a-cruising. I think I have just enough daylight to get to the next interesting location where I want to shoot a video before the sun goes down. So you'll just have to tune in next time to see what else I find out in this wild and woolly no man's land west of Bakersfield.